Rev up your engines!
Well, I laugh at GM saying they're going to revolutionize electric cars. They're going to make all this money making electric cars. Okay. They're telling their Chevy Bolt EV owners, don't park your cars inside or charge them unintended overnight, or they might start on fire. This is after they've already had 2 software recalls that supposedly fix the batteries that start on fire, right? It just shows how GM doesn't really care about their clientele. You remember years ago, they hid that they had problems with their ignition switches. They even changed the numbers of the replacement parts to look like they didn't do anything. And they got sued, and then they admitted they'd been lying and cheating about electric switches for years. They could stall a car out and cause wrecks and things like that, right? Now they're telling you, you got to park them outside because they might start on fire even though they have these supposed software fixes. They bought the wrong batteries from the wrong company. Instead of saying, oh, we're going to replace them all, no, they're trying to wiggle their way out of it, right? So they don't have to spend a whole bunch of money. And they're going to make quality electric cars in the future. I'm not holding my breath on that one. Now, this is all starting out because 2 of the vehicles that had gone through the process of the software fix have already started on fire and burned up. So obviously their fix didn't fix anything. And it's not like they're recalling a couple of cars. They don't sell that many of them, and they're recalling 69,000 of them. So if you want to park in your garage, you might burn your house down too. They say don't leave it charging overnight. When are you going to charge an electric car? Right? Overnight. The most common time when you're not using it. Now they say don't do that. It might burn down. These are the clowns at GM that are going to build electric cars we're all going to be driving. I don't think so. Just a line of baloney they lay on you, just like their baloney. Well, we fix it with software, don't worry. I've seen that so many times from them and other companies. They'll say, oh, the automatic transmissions don't work right. It just needs reprogramming. Then they reprogram it, the person gets their car back, and it still shifts like crap. They're just passing the buck and trying to do something with, oh, it's just software. We need to reprogram it. No, you need to replace the transmissions, but that costs a fortune. It would cost them hundreds of millions of dollars if they had to do it on lots of cars. So, oh no, we can fix it with a software update. That's good enough. There's now a class action suit that's being taken against Ford Mustang because they said they were track ready when in reality they weren't. And the judge in the case said they were more like Pintos than Mustangs, referring, of course, to the old Pintos that started on fire when they got in wrecks and stuff. This is the 526 horsepower Shelby GT350. Ford claimed it was track ready. You could take it on a track and race. And then people are finding after 4 minutes, they'd overheat and they'd go to limp till they couldn't race anymore. This is the 2016 Ford Mustang Shelby GT350. They said they could race them. They lacked oil, transmission, and differential coolers that high-trim cars like Track R and R technology package have. But they were saying they were track ready when they really weren't. All these Shelbys were pre-programmed to enter a performance limited mode called limp mode if the engine started to get too hot. They didn't have all these coolers on them because they were making them cheaper. So they would go into limp home mode. I remember years ago I had a 2013 Shelby Cobra GT500 for a week. And they said, oh yeah, it's performance, this, that, and everything else. And I said, well, does it have rev limiters and stuff like that? And they said, oh, no. So I thought, okay, let's see what this thing can do. It was fun driving around the street, right? So I took it to a drag strip to do the quarter-mile drag, right? I'm halfway through the quarter mile and the engine starts cutting off. I could tell it had a rev limiter, right? So then I finally got a hold of a Ford engineer and I said, you guys got a rev limiter on this Cobra you gave me. They said they did. And the engineer says, oh, yes, it does. We don't want people blowing the engines up. So you revved it too high and it cut in, and that's why it did so crappy in the quarter mile. So the salespeople lied to me, but when I finally got an engineer, he told me the truth. Here's Ford's defense, which I can't help but laugh at. Ford says that this is a safety feature so they don't overheat. Since it's not a malfunction, it doesn't represent a vehicle defect and is not a claim that can be made in court. Ford claims it's a track-ready thing, right? People get them and they're not track-ready, and they say, well, you can't sue us because of that because that's a safety feature so the car doesn't overheat. Well, you can't say it's track-ready when, and that's why the judge is going ahead with this claim, saying they can have a class action suit because Ford claimed it was track-ready and it's not track-ready. So I got to agree with the judge on this one. If they were going to be really track-ready, they should should have put coolers on, but they were too cheap, and they didn't put them on like they did on the real high-end vehicles, where they wouldn't have overheated if they had extra coolers for the transmission and for the engine. It wouldn't have had the problem that it's having now. Ford's trying to wheedle their way out of it, saying, oh, well, that's not a claim you can do because it's a safety feature, blah, blah, blah. Well, they shouldn't have said it was track ready, which they did. So I'm all with the judge agreeing that they should sue them. Same thing years ago, I had customers buy the Mustangs that had that horrible 6-speed transmission that was made in China. I had one customer, and she would take it to the track because they said, you can take this to the track. She blew up 3 transmissions, and when the last one that they put in went, she gave the car back to Ford. She said, you think this thing is ready for the track? I've gone through 3 or trannies, and then that last one broke too. And she just gave back the car and got her money back. You can't claim something's track ready unless it is. And that, they're advertising BS. There are people who actually do take them to the tracks, and if they don't make it, I agree. They should be able to sue them and say, you took all the stuff off, you didn't make them right, they're not track ready, give me my money back. It only makes sense. GH says, I'm being screwed over by somebody else's error. For some reason, there was an oil change reported on my car's auto check in February 2020 with an odometer reading of 87,000 miles. But my car was not serviced there at that date, and my car only had 45,000 miles on it. The service manager at the dealership said it was a result of human error, that nothing can be done to correct this issue. Now I can't trade in my car because the dealership's since been rolled back. One wouldn't take it, another offered me $9,000 below the value because of this. Do you know what I should do? Go to the dealership that did it and bring a lawyer with you or a letter from a lawyer and say, you are going to have to fix this problem, or you can buy my car back the actual value because it's lowered because of your stupid mistake. You didn't even have it serviced there, and they said it was serviced there. That is fraud. They're fraudulently doing things to you. And believe me, you get a lawyer involved, then they won't say, well, there's nothing we can do about it because it's only you now. But you get the law involved and mention that Scotty's talking about it on the internet. Unfortunately, he didn't give me the name of the dealership or anything. I would have thrown that out here too if you gave me a receipt of the stuff on it to say, here's what they said. And get it all on paper. Don't just be word of mouth, because then they'll say like, oh, well, we never said that, right? Or record it with your phone, do something. But that's just typical with those dealerships. They don't care about people. And you didn't even go there, so they really don't care about you. God knows how they got your number and your name and put the wrong mileage of the car on. Who knows? I mean, we got clowns now running these places, playing a different tune when they get a letter from a lawyer saying you fraudulently did this, you're responsible, because fraud is triple damages. So let's say if you're losing $9,000, you could sue them for $27,000. So then they'd probably change their tune at that one. Patraw says, should I change my Prius's automatic tranny fluid? I took it to a dealer. It's got 120,000 miles. They said it's a lifetime fluid. You never need to change it. Don't listen to them. That's a load of crap. Ask them what the warranty is on that transmission. You got 120,000 miles. I'm sure the warranty is long gone. And they'd be totally happy if the transmission broke and you'd either buy another car or spend a small fortune getting a Prius transmission, because the Prius transmission also has the generator in it. And the last time I saw somebody replace one of those, it was like $6,200. So yes, have the fluid changed. Total nonsense. Nothing lasts forever. There's friction. There's dirt. Bad things happen. So do get it changed. Watch some of my videos. You can see you can change it yourself. It's not rocket science. It's simple enough to do. You just empty out what's in it and put it back in. New fluid that's the same amount. Measure it. Put it back in. Amway says, I have no power on my dash after an accident. I got a Porsche Cayenne 2014. With an accident called the airbags to deploy, how to get the dash lights to start? It won't start. No current going to one. Jump in the car. Here's the thing. You got a Porsche Cayenne, right? You're in an accident. You better have insurance on that car. You drive a Porsche, you don't have insurance, you get in a wreck, you might as well junk the car. Those airbags go off, electronic stuff is all squashed. Whatever you hit, that's going to be squashed. There are so many things that can go wrong with a Porsche. If you didn't have insurance, right, you're going to have to spend some money. You're going to have to go to a good Porsche mechanic who's got their scan tool. They have special scan tools that only work for Porsches, and see all the failures that are going on. And if a guy's really good, he might say, okay, well, what do you want? You want it running? Here's what I can do to get it running, because let's say your airbags deployed, right? Any mechanic who's going to fix that car, by law, he's got to fix those airbags or he'd be giving you a car you could kill yourself in. So no mechanic in his right mind is going to touch that car if you're not willing to pay for new airbags. And you'll probably find it'll cost more than the car's worth to fix. So I hope you have insurance. If you do, just take it to a Porsche dealer and say, here's my insurance, fix this thing. If you don't, pay a good Porsche mechanic to check it out first and see what he says. Guy I met in Rhode Island, he had a friend that he went to high school with who was a Porsche mechanic at the dealer. and he worked at half the price of what a Porsche dealer did on the weekends in his own garage. Find a guy like that if you can. But I mean, don't drive a Porsche with no insurance. It would be foolhardy. You get in a wreck, you might as well kiss that car goodbye. Past 1776 says it is important to adjust the valves when you change the spark plugs on a 2002 4-cylinder Honda Accord. When should I get the valves adjusted? When I change the spark plugs? Depends when you change the spark plugs. Spark plugs, you can put iridium ones in. They can last over 100,000 miles. It's a Honda. They have manually adjustable valves. They're not like most other cars that have hydraulic ones or have stainless steel shims. They have actual little screws with nuts and bolts on them, and you gotta adjust them every once in a while. I personally, if I owned a Honda, I would adjust the valves every 60,000 miles. Forget when they change the spark plugs unless it's been 60,000 miles or 120,000 miles. Should have done it twice. You want to adjust the valves about every 60,000 miles on those. It's critical to Hondas. They're still using an old-time design, and you get a lot of problems if you don't adjust the valves. They can overheat. They can be hard to start when they're cold, or if they get the other way, instead of too tight, too loose, they can be hard to start when they get hot, so that you could spend days and tons of money trying to figure out what's wrong, and it's just the valves are out of adjustment. So I'd say do it every 60,000 miles. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.